Sup everyone, what is wrong with the phrase, I am waiting for fontaine? Now, in the very essence of the phrase, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I am waiting for fontaine, I'm waiting for Natlan, I'm waiting for Shasnaya, I'm waiting for whatever comes after. However, I don't believe that during the peak of our enjoyment of Genshin did we ever say, I'm gonna stop playing the game and I'm gonna wait for something else to come out. The fact that people are saying I'm waiting for fontaine already hints at what currently is available is not what they are waiting for, right? At least it's implied. Like, what do you mean you're waiting for fontaine? What about 3.8? What about 3.7, 3.6? So amongst the Genshin elitists, there will be some who say, well, if you don't enjoy the full aspect of the game, you don't deserve the game, right? And that's a very backward way of thinking and telling people. It's like the same as saying, if you don't like one aspect of the game, or you dare to say anything negative about any aspect of the game, you probably should just quit, because you obviously don't love the game. And if you don't love the game, if you don't have the passion for the game, why are you wasting your time on the game? Which leads me to the discussion for today. Again, name's Walrus. If this is your first time here, I talk about Genshin sometimes. I play Genshin rarely, because I've come to notice that playing Genshin isn't nearly as fun as talking about Genshin and exploring other avenues of Genshin Impact. So if you enjoy this type of content, it's mostly discussion based. Drop a like, subscribe for more. If you think this is not your cup of tea, thank you for tuning in, and maybe I'll see you again, maybe I won't. But let's continue with this conversation, right? Back to the question I asked you. I am waiting for fontaine. Is there anything wrong with this phrase? Now, I would say the vast majority of you guys who are watching say, no, there's nothing wrong with that, right? What's wrong with saying, I'm taking a short break from something that I enjoy in small dosages, right? I enjoy Genshin maybe 4 or 5 patches out of 7-8 patches that they produce every year. So is it wrong to say that, well, just because I only enjoy 4 to 5 patches, that I don't deserve to fully enjoy the game? Which is a narrative some elitist players of the community try to push onto others. It's like you either fully commit full on or don't commit at all. And don't get me started, if you have anything negative to say, if you don't enjoy any aspects of the game, keep it to yourself. And when you leave, this is the very popular one, that this isn't an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. Now, which is funny because when you're at an airport, you don't announce your departure either. But, right, I get it. A lot of people want to encapsulate themselves, fully envelop themselves in an environment, whereas they only see the best. They want to see the most beautiful side of something they truly enjoy. And it comes from a place of endearment. Much like to some people, it rubs them the wrong way when you say nothing but positivity. You just go full on blind positivity. It rubs some people the wrong way. But for these people, they only want blind positivity, which has led to a very awkward situation with the community. And whether you want to admit it or not, I don't think game can have a thriving community if you don't have a healthy balance of both. Now, the content creators, whilst a lot of people would want to believe, are non-important to the game's survival. So as you guys have seen, many content creators since Genshin's slower patches starting in 3.6, 3.7, 3.8 had slowly kind of moved away from the title. Nowadays, who's still left apart from some theory crafters and some personality channels, and of course commentary channels like my own, a lot of the ones that used to spearhead content for the game has since moved on, and a lot of it has been attributed to the fact that the community does not want to have a conversation. They don't want to discuss the pros and cons of the game. And yes, while a lot of these discussions are of old news, we've had these discussions since patch 1 point something. However, if you look at other pieces of content such as just general gameplay content, they've also taken a huge nosedive. And why is that? Is it because that players are quitting the game? Not necessarily. Is it because players are getting tired of the game? Not necessarily. Which then again brings me back to the phrase that started the video, is I am waiting for fontaine. Now, this phrase isn't something that just popped out of nowhere from Fontaine. People said the same when Inazuma was coming. I'm waiting for Inazuma. Same with Sumeru. I'm waiting for Sumeru. Now I'm waiting for Fontaine. Eventually it's going to be I'm waiting for Natlan, I'm waiting for Shiznaya, and I'm waiting for whatever comes after. If you guys scrutinize the Genshin Impact community and most gacha communities or live service game communities, people often live in the future. It's mainly because the game doesn't have enough content to sustain a 6-week period for people. And I'm saying like playing very reservingly. I'm not saying you're trying to play an hour a day. I'm saying you're trying to even try to squeeze 30-40 minutes of meaningful gameplay every day. It's not doable. So this is where the whole thing where Genshin is supposed to be a side game and not your main game. This is where it comes from, is that you can't even fill 30 minutes of meaningful progressive gameplay into your daily gaming sessions. Now, to say people don't have 30 minutes to devote to something they love every single day, that's crazy to say, right? Now, we can go into a whole tangent about how this game was designed for the Chinese population, who very much could struggle to find 30 minutes every single day to commit, and especially if the game incentivizes or pushes you towards needing to play 30 minutes every day, that could start becoming a problem. But we're not going to talk about that. If you guys think that's interesting, comment down below. We might make a video about that. But let's go back to the topic of the fact that Genshin doesn't provide you enough content to sustain like even daily gameplay for 6 weeks, is why after like a week or week and a half, people are already looking towards the next patch. And this is the same even in major patches with big region releases. People get excited during the live stream, and in fact in the days that lead up to the actual release of the patch, most of the people's excitement for the next patch has already simmered down. So by the time the patch actually launches, people are already at a very lukewarm level of excitement for the patch. And of course, it doesn't help that HoYoverse also drops a ton of information regarding the patch after the patch that they have yet to release. So people are already kind of getting a little tingly on what is yet to come. All this just culminates into a situation where people can't really even enjoy what we have in the moment for like a week, really, like, because before the thing even comes out, people are already looking at what's coming after this. And combined with the uncontrolled amount of leaks that floods into the community on a daily basis, you have easily created a situation where nothing you have going on right now is important, and people always look to the future for something that's more exciting. And by the time something that's more exciting comes around, they are already looking yet again to the future for something that's more exciting. This is a never really ending cycle of unfulfillment. You never get to be satisfied. And people wonder why this game struggles to pull viewership in 2023. It's because HoYoverse has not really tried to innovate beyond what has worked for them 2-3 years ago. Now, this is a tricky situation because I'm not asking them to reinvent the wheel. In fact, I am not asking them to do anything. If this is still pulling in billions of dollars per year for them, there's absolutely no reason for them to do anything. But much like how most companies, most titles slip into the oblivion, it doesn't happen instantaneously. It's a gradual process. If you look at the current Genshin Impact, well, I mean, this patch is not a great outlook for Genshin, but let's take a look at 4.0. Let's take a look at 4.1. What I found is that, well, yes, a lot of people do come back and play, but the retention just isn't there. With Genshin Impact back in Inazuma, people came back, played for a couple weeks, and then dropped the game. With Sumeru, people came back, and even with Dendro, they played for maybe 1 to 2 weeks and they're like, not for me, I'm gonna drop it again. And now with the rival Fontaine, which doesn't even have a new element to support it, I really am wondering, how long are people going to stay committed to this new thing that gets people excited? Or once 4.0 drop, everybody's going to look to 4.1. When 4.1 drops, everyone's going to look for 4.2, and it's so on and so forth. And before you know it, you're waiting for Natlan. Now, again, I'm not making this video to spread fear and be like, oh, Genshin is dying. It's not dying. There's constantly newer players flowing into the community. And with the amount of ads that Hoyoverse wants to run for their titles, it's no surprise that they're gaining a lot more new players. However, I do feel like for those players who are feeling burned out, for those players who are waiting on the sideline, and for those veterans who have quit for like over 6 months only to tell themselves, I'm coming back once Fontaine drops, and then they come back, play for like a week or maybe a couple days and be like, nah, I'm good, maybe I'll wait for Natlan. This honestly doesn't feel like a healthy way for a game to entice their players, right? They just come back just to test things out for a couple days and then just don't play the game for months on end. Well, yes, it's one way to breathe some life into a game that is slowly declining, but there has to be a better way. And now a lot of people would jump the gun and say like, endgame, but I would argue that endgame really isn't the best way to go about keeping players interested and engaged. I can talk more about this in my live stream, because if I sit here and continue talking about the possibilities, it's gonna take another 20-30 minutes minimum. But comment down below, what do you guys think? What is the best solution for players to not have to take months of breaks on end to not feel the burnout Genshin has to deliver? Now, is this just normal? Do all games have this? Is it even reasonable to ask a game to keep players engaged for years on end without them ever needing to take a break? Am I completely out of the loop here? Because I've remembered myself playing games for years on end without the need to take long breaks in between, as long as the game gave me something to do and kept me engaged. But Genshin honestly has done a splendid job at hooking players and keeping them in the game for a long period of time. But again, what do you guys think? Comment down below and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, Urgetta, stay safe. Peace, bye bye.